What a beautiful rose, no doubt. Nice long stem. But if you're going to have roses that look like this, and this cutting garden, it's a rose cutting garden of very fragrant long-stemmed roses. It's kind of an intensive activity to grow these. These are all hybrid teas or grandiflora roses, long stems, great big flowers, the kind that you buy from the florist. And to grow these requires regular culture, maintenance, and spraying. Pruning roses is one of the things that you really need to know how to do to get the best results. And whether it's knockouts or beautiful hybrid teas like this, the first prune of the year, which we usually do in Nashville around, say, late February, early March, is the hardest prune of the year. And you can see these big things are called canes on roses, and I cut it back really hard, slanting cut, so the water, any rain drops don't sit on it, they slide off. And you can see I cut it back to about 12 to 18 inches, and I only leave a few canes. You want a big, strong structure. And I'm going to show you what I feed with. This is my favorite. There are two good rose fertilizers that I know. This is one called Mills Magic, and it doesn't smell like most fertilizers. It smells kind of sweet because it's got alfalfa meal in it, and it smells kind of like sweet alfalfa hay when you put it down. And I feed very heavily in a circle around each plant. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention about pruning, and this is disease control. There's a terrible disease that's affecting roses, and if you've got knockouts, you've probably heard about it. You need to sterilize your tools. These are my pruners, and whether I'm using loppers on great big canes or these, I usually use this kind of pruner when I'm doing this cut in the early spring. In between every plant, I wipe down the blades to sterilize them with either a Lysol wipe or a Clorox wipe, a bleach wipe. Either one works fine. But what that does is it prevents this terrible disease called rose rosette from being transferred from one plant, which may have it, to another. Rose rosette is a virus-like, it's not really an animal, it's a plasma living organism that infects the sap. So when you cut and you get sap on it and then you cut another plant, you're transferring it from one plant to another. The two ways this disease, rose rosette, is spread are by little teeny tiny mites that blow in the wind and by people doing bad culture cutting with dirty implements. But you can see that they've grown bodaciously. They love that fertilizer that I put on. And this is the end of the first big blooming flush of these roses. And roses, whether they're knockouts or this kind, tend to bloom in 6-week cycles. In other words, there'll be a big flush, and then they sort of go back. They might throw an odd bud here or there, but 6 weeks later, you'll get another big boom if you feed them again. Here's one that blooms a little earlier than its compatriots in this garden, and it's already gone by. And I want to show you how to cut back to the right place to stimulate more bloom. You'll notice as a stalk comes up, this has 7 leaflets, this has 5 leaflets, this has 3 plus a baby kind of afterthought. Cut back to 5 or 7, okay? And at least 5, never just cut back like that. That's a mistake. This won't put out a blossom. This bud right here might get activated, but it'll just put out more leaves. Never cut back to just 3 leaflets, cut below that. And how to decide where to cut? One is, if it's a big long branch, you might want to trim it back to keep it better in size. But another way is, below where you cut, the first place where the leaf hits the stem, which is called the node, that's where the bud will be activated, and that's what will grow. So the way the leaf faces is the way that bud will grow. So you can decide how you're shaping your plant every time you prune. I want this plant, see this down here? I want this one to grow out. I don't want to do this one because that'll make it kind of out of proportion with the rest of the plant. I'm thinking all the time, slanted cut, 1/4 inch above that node, bam. This will now grow out this way, rather than into the middle of the plant, which will crowd it and help with disease and that kind of thing. And now is when I I give it that boost. I will cut all of these off, but for purposes of showing you, I'm just going to show you how I just sprinkle around the drip line, which is out beyond the plant, but these are where the feeder roots are, and that's fine. That'll be good to go. Obviously, we spray a lot in this garden because these kinds of roses require it. As a matter of fact, it happens every 2 to 3 weeks throughout the season. And we rotate through, it's a combination spray of an insecticide, miticide, plus a fungicide. Because these kinds of roses get practically any disease a rose can get, these will get. These very refined kind of roses. Knockouts, for example, are much more disease resistant. They won't get black spot, for example. I'm not seeing any black spot on these because they've been sprayed, but black spot is very obvious. I'm sure you've seen it. It gets these very dark circular spots, the leaves turn yellow and tend to drop off. Bad case of black spot can defoliate an entire plant, very much weakens it, won't kill it, but it's bad for it. Second would be powdery mildew. These roses don't have either of those because I spray for it, but the insects also hit roses. You can get spider mites, you can get Japanese beetles in that season, but the most common one around here is, I want you to see on these leaves, see those little kind of spots? They're beige, and they look like they're not holes in the leaf. They look sort of like the leaf surface has been eaten away. And that's because it has from the underside. These little animals that did this did it one night and they were taken care of the next day. They show up, it's called a rose sawfly. They live on the underside of the leaf and eat the leaf tissue, leaving only the very top surface, which leaves almost like a little window. When they get really bad, they'll eat all the way through. And I've seen it where they can totally defoliate. I mean, they'll just skeletonize a leaf. It's crazy. They won't eat the veins. They eat the stuff in between. There's an easy remedy for this, and it's organic. It's a spray called, the active ingredient of which is spinosad. It's S-P-I-N-O-S-A-D. You can buy it anywhere. There are a number of brands. And it's, like I say, it's organic. You don't have to try to hit the animal with it. All you have to do is spray it on leaves it's eating, and it ingests it, and that kills it. It's a lot like Bacillus thuringiensis in that way, which, by the way, will not work for rose sawflies, so don't waste your time. Rose sawfly looks like a little bitty green caterpillar, but it's not a true caterpillar, which is why BT doesn't work. But that's easily controlled. The other big insect that gets on roses is aphids. And I use insecticidal soap for aphids, which is a contact. You basically just have to hit them, but one hit and they're gone. Aphids can appear overnight. They blow in, some adults fly, and they can just show up one day. One day you have a clean garden, the next day you've got aphids on everything. That weird little roundish bloated looking thing is a dead aphid that was parasitized by a tiny wasp. These are good things. There are a lot of good animals. One of the reasons for using organics is that you're not killing the good guys in your garden. They're helping you out with control. I'm putting in a new rose today, and one of the things I really want to emphasize, and I'm sure you'll hear this from everybody who grows roses, is that soil is king. Any plant is only as good as the soil it's in. And you can see that this soil has been improved over the years. There's fairly good soil on this site to begin with, but we have really improved it. We let mulch rot in. We use organics. It really helps. So I'm going to be planting a new grandiflora rose, and this is the fertilizer that I put in, and I work into the bottom. Now, most plant roots grow out, not down, so I'm not worried about digging way down deep and making all kinds of loose soil down there. What I want to do now is take this out of the pot. It's got a good root system. Tease these out a little bit. These are all the feeder roots, all these little white guys. White roots are good. You want to see that. Stick it in the hole. Make sure it's set. I like to think of a front and back to these things, how the person coming in is going to view it. So I'm going to turn it just a little bit so it fits better with its neighbors. And then I just backfill with this good soil. There's a little rock, don't need that in there. And you want to punch down all the way around You want great contact. You do not want air holes anywhere near those little bitty roots. One little air pocket and the root that it's near will die. It'll dry out and die. So this is good. Punch, 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 punch. Now I want to make sure that all the roots are buried and that I'm not higher than it was in the pot. I'm going to take a little bit more. The feeder roots I'm going to put close to the trunk here because, unlike these established roses, because there aren't any roots out there yet. Work a little of that in. And bam, all it needs is water. And mulching roses, I will put a little pine straw. I like pine straw because it doesn't wash away. This is a slightly sloping site. And I don't put it up. I want to show you that it's best if you don't put it right up against the rose. Leave a couple of inches of bare next to the trunk of the rose. And there you've got it. This rose garden proves that in a relatively small space, you can get boatloads of roses. I mean, literally, the owner of this garden takes armloads out of here every summer. And it looks pretty much like this from early May until hard frost. It lets down a little bit, but there's always something in bloom. It's a delight. And the aroma, because every one of these is intensely fragrant, is just amazing. And I'd seriously encourage people to think about putting the time in, because you can have this as a result.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.